Bryan Kohberger is currently in custody for the murder of Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Madison Mogen. 4 Idaho University students, 20 years of age and 21 years of age. He killed them in the middle of the night around 4 a.m. It does appear that the murders took approximately somewhere between 16 and 19 minutes. There was a DoorDash individual that dropped off food at about 4 a.m. So he probably entered the home around 4:01 to 4:05 approximately and left the house by 4:25 a.m. I was probably in there for about 19 minutes, including the walk. He turned his cell phone off, according to the affidavit that was recently released. Tracked where he went that night. This shows you pretty much everywhere he went. From 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m., which is likely the time that the murders were committed. Time for him to drive to the Moscow murder location, wait outside the window, take a picture of Kaylee Goncalves at 3:10 a.m. outside her bedroom window, enter the house at approximately 4 a.m., and then the whole murder itself took about 19 minutes. The photo that he took was posted on a 4chan account anonymously. That account, I believe to be him. First of all, there's a picture of the victim, timestamped at 3:10 a.m. in Moscow. He admitted on there that he killed the girls, was trying to frame David Loach. He said, I hung Kaylee's intestines on the ceiling fan. And then he said David Loach is the killer. So David Loach is somebody who's in a fraternity. Keep in mind the screen name is Frat Anon. So it's an anonymous frat member. And the suspect himself also was in a fraternity when he went to school at NCC College, Community College in Northampton, Pennsylvania. So nobody really knew at this point, December 12th, that the murderer was in Pennsylvania. So I find it highly suspicious that not only did he have that photo, but he also stated he was going to be hiding out in PA, shithole PA. So now, how did somebody know that the suspect was going to be in PA? So that's questionable to me and makes me think that he may in fact be the murderer. So now that we have our suspect, he left a sheath at the murder scene, and that sheath may or may not have been something that he wanted to use to maybe frame the David Loach person. He's a criminal justice major. I find it highly suspicious that he would do something like that. Flipped out. It could have been in the moment. He could have forgotten because he was so entrenched by the fact that he just murdered. Whatever the case is, that leads me to the next point. He left a sheath containing a knife, a K-bar knife. That means that there's a missing K-bar, and we need to find that K-bar. If we can find that K-bar, it has his DNA evidence, or at least some sort of link back to him, maybe even the fact that he's just in the area is enough. Police have yet, or FBI has tracked that IP address and has connected it with him, and then it turns out that the murder weapon is, in fact, at the place that the 4chan account reported it to be. Then we have a really solid piece of evidence and a solid lead here. So I want to show you this spot right here is where I believe the murdered weapon to be. So I think that it's somewhere around here is where the murder weapon is located. But it's definitely on a tree line according to the picture and the coordinates he posted. So if it's correct, it's somewhere in this vicinity, somewhere in this terrainy green area with the trees is where he most likely hid the murder weapon. The Pullman, all the way back to Moscow. There's Genesee, Blaine Johnson, all those places, Clarks and Lewiston that he went to that day. There's a coffee shop somewhere in here, place that he could put the murder weapon here, besides the obvious Snake River and this cool looking paper thing here. This paper reservoir is really cool. I don't know what this is, but kind of when you eat it or jump in it, it's cool, very cool looking. If you happen to read the affidavit that has been released on the Moscow murders and Bryan Kohberger as a suspect, one of the reasons for their probable cause and their warrant approval was that Bryan Kohberger turned his phone off from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. approximately the night of the murders, and also again during the murders itself, his phone was off. He then also came back for about 10 minutes in the morning around 9 a.m. to the murder scene the day of the murders. If he was able to complete those murders in the time frame of between 2:30 and 5:30, not very large window of time for murders. So now you want to think about the fact that there is a 3-hour gap of time the night of the murders where his cell phone is off that is unaccounted for. He's picked up on some cameras. He's picked up on some cell phone towers at times. Basically, it seems he went to Johnson, and then after Johnson, his cell phone went off. He was gone for about 3 hours. His phone was off for about 3 hours or in airplane mode. And then when it came back on about 3 hours later, it was in Johnson again. It's possible that he went from Johnson to hide the weapon and back. So this could be anywhere within an hour and a half range. It's somewhere that he had to hike to. So the murder weapon and Johnson are about 30 minutes apart. That gives it an hour of time plus whatever time he needed to bury the weapon. Maybe he was trying to figure out where exactly he wanted to hide the weapon. He also most likely went to the Albertson grocery store, and then on the way noticed that maybe this would be a good place to hide the weapon. So he turned his cell phone off. He may have gone back to Johnson, went back to the area that he noticed. He didn't want to stop there initially because then it would be shown that he was there. He didn't want the murder weapon to be found. When he was done, he was back in Johnson, at least getting detected by their cell towers. So it's possible he wasn't in Johnson, it was just their towers detecting him. That was likely the closest tower to where he was. And then he eventually went back home. So during that period of time, what was he doing? All likelihood is he was up to something, hiding the weapon, cleaning the car, burying clothes, burning clothes, burning evidence, something to that effect. He went out to a field. So I'm not exactly sure how he got rid of this weapon, but if he buried it, and if the coordinates located on the map on 4chan are in fact true, then it is very possible that location on the map is where the murder weapon is located.